I'm really glad to be here. It's so sweet to be in this space. Wow. This morning's reflection is going to be a triple treat. It's like baseball, you know, and the first three batters are your triple treat. And our batters today are Forcier and Richard Schramm and Anne Macksoud. And they're going to give us their thoughts on the theme or question, how can we respond to these troubled times? Wowza, could we use some help? And something to think about between now and the time they talk is, what are you doing? And how do you feel about it with dealing with these troubled times? If you're visiting the North Chapel today from afar, please let everybody know by raising your hand or standing up if you want, and tell us who you are and where you're from. Anybody visiting from far away? Great.
Good morning, I'm Forcier. I'm calling Denise, and I'm visiting from Schramm. Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Hooray, welcome. Now, this is a good time to turn off your cell phone or anything that you have that makes a noise when you least expect it. There are lots of things going on in the North Chapel, and you can have a look through your order of service to see some of them. In particular, don't forget to check out the online Spring Fling auction and the gift basket raffle. It's full of local products. Our theme for the month of March has been acceptance of one another. It seems to me that acceptance isn't just a fine idea. It's a profound act, and it's an act that when you do it, it produces a deep feeling. Hopefully, you can remember what it feels like when someone says, thank you for something you have just done. Remember how you feel when you say, you are very welcome. That's one kind of feeling acceptance. Hopefully right at this moment, you feel accepted just being in this wonderful space, sharing it with people by whom you feel accepted. I know that's a feeling that keeps me coming back here week after week. But what about the action of accepting someone else? Someone other than you? This could be a very useful practice in these troubled and often diverse times wherein there may be people who challenge your acceptance skills. Let's see what that form of acceptance might feel like. Let me get some video help here. Please just do what I do and say what I say. Let's see what form of acceptance may feel like in a real way. If you guys over here can do this with your thumbs and point to yourself and say, I am right here.
I am right here.
And you guys over here, thumbs to your chest and say, I am right here.
I am right here.
We are right here.
We are right here.
We are right here. Now you guys point to those guys and say, you are over there.
You are over there.
And you guys point to them and say, no, you are over there.
No, you are over there.
And now if you put your hands like this and you look at each other and you say, looking at each other, we are all in this together.
We are all in this together.
Let's do that again. We are all in this together. That is what acceptance feels like, the acceptance of others. May we hold each other in our hearts with acceptance, and please accept this moment of meditation.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to start out by saying that I am the mystery woman whose birthday it is, and I didn't want Joanne to feel, restrained from celebrating me. I appreciate it. I can't think of a nicer convergence than to have my birthday come on a time when I could be here with all of you, the beloved community. But Joby had just turned to me and said, how much will you give me if I don't light a birthday candle? And I said, plenty. So the truth is that I'm kind of shocked by this birthday. I never really expected to get this far. I never was too well in my earlier life. And so I'm 80 today. And so I just wanted to get that out of the way and to accept Joanne's gracious wishing of a happy birthday, and Judith, who did, and Diane, and I told them all to be quiet. So, because Leon is not here today, and we didn't have a guest reflector, Richard and Polly and I agreed to take about 5 minutes each, or 5 or 6 minutes, and talk about what's really been on our mind recently. And we did it separately, and then a few days ago we had a Zoom call to see what we might have come up with, and it turns out that more or less we all came up with the same theme of hope. So if that is a theme that's been on your mind, on our minds, I bet it is on your mind too. I think we might all agree, even though we don't really like to talk about it, that these are very dark and scary times that we're living in. I don't remember a time like this in my lifetime, and I feel at a loss a lot of times about what to do with myself and how to deal with the news every night as I sit in comfort and safety, how to deal with a report of the next ecological devastation that leads us closer to turning points in climate change. And I'm wondering what hope is in this context. Is it really anything more than wishful thinking? The question that keeps coming to my mind, and has been for a long time, is this question, is how can we live our lives fully with inner peace and courage and even joy as we confront a world that's rapidly destroying itself? And I've been looking for answers for that question, and I have found some very, very helpful answers recently, as many of you know, from Joanna Macy. Joanna's an ecologist and an environmental activist. She's a scholar of Buddhism, a scholar of systems thinking. She wrote 12 books, and she is a translator of the poetry of Rilke, German poet Rilke. And she's about to be 93 on May 2nd. And even though she's losing her eyesight now, she's still giving interviews. So some of what I'm going to read to you was very recent. This is what Joanna has to say about hope. Hope and hopelessness, they're just feelings. They arise and pass. Sometimes I feel hopeful, sometimes I feel hopeless. Sometimes it has to do with what I had for breakfast or what somebody just said to me. When you're in the middle of a big adventure, you don't have time to decide whether you're hopeful or hopeless. David going out with his slingshot to confront Goliath. Do I say to him, "Excuse me, David, are you feeling hopeful?" Or, "Excuse me, Frodo and Sam, how hopeful do you feel today?" No, we've just got a job to do. That question, whether we feel hopeful or hopeless, can take us out of the present moment. It can throw us into imaginings and conjectures when all our energy should be right here, right now, in the moment. The greatest gift we can give to our world is our full presence and our choice, moment by moment, to be present. The greatest gift we can give our world is our full presence. For decades, I have understood the value of living in the present. It's at the heart of Buddhism. It's at the heart of the mindfulness movement. It's at the heart of the Jewish and Muslim and Christian mystical traditions. It's in Hinduism and Taoism and indigenous spirituality and probably a whole bunch of other spiritualities that I'm not aware of. But why is it so hard? It seems common sense to be in the moment. That's where our life is happening. But I find it very hard, and I know a lot of people do. In fact, I Googled it just to make sure I wasn't alone and just gonna... I didn't want to be just telling you that I find it hard if you don't. So I Googled it, and I stopped looking at the pages that were just what I had typed in. Why is it so hard to be in the present moment? I don't know why dwelling on the past or worrying about the future seems easier than being right here, right now. A friend of mine once said, "I'm not sure I'm capable of enduring the intensity of the present moment." And I knew exactly what he meant. But when I heard Joanna Macy say that the greatest gift we can give our world is our full presence, something shifted in me, and I could feel it. And because I couldn't keep the tears back, I knew that she was onto something. And this has been over months that this keeps recurring, this sense that, oh, that's a gift I can give. Because the troubles are so large that what we do seems so insignificant. And this, she says, is the greatest gift we can give. And I believe her. And so that is the gift that I'm trying to give and hoping that we'll all be giving. This is, in a very recent interview, she said this: "This is the one world we know, and it feels right to be here now. I feel so grateful to be here now. Not because I can make everything better, I don't know how. But I want to be here with this beloved planet. I'm part of her. I'm like a cell in her body, and I'm going to be here just as long as I can, with all my gratitude and all my love and all my attention. I want to give the gift of my full attention and free it from what I insist has to happen. I don't know what has to happen. Maybe something fantastic is going to happen. But for it to happen, we have to show up. So we have to show up. But what does showing up have to do with hope? And Joanna equates hope with action. In fact, one of her books is called Active Hope. And she says that hope is something that not something that we have, but something that we do. She says, first, you find what you want to do, and then you take a step, and then another step. And then, if you want, you join people who are already making it a reality, and you work together. And with that understanding of hope, active hope, hope as a verb, you as a verb, then you are acting even when you're feeling hopeless. So if I'm feeling hopeless, or even if I'm not, I do want to join together with others in our community and figure out what we can do together. I think it's interesting that Joanna says, first you find out what you want to do. I feel as though we have to get past the things that we feel that we ought to do or that people expect us to do, and find out what we feel called to do, what excites us, what gets us in the zone, and work with that. And that's okay. I mean, I see that that's okay. If our full presence to it is what the gift is, then it's better than doing something you don't feel like doing anyway, but you feel you should. So with that said, one way we could start working together is to take a look at this website that Joanne told about, that Joelle and Joanne have been working on. Anybody else? Yeah. Anybody else working on that website?
At this time now, but we're hoping for more people to send stuff.
Well, it's terrific. I spent some time there yesterday, and there are so many opportunities for things we can do, personal, local, national, and international. And it's just a beautiful, I haven't seen a better one, and I've looked at a lot. So take a look at that and pick out some things. And then I think it'll be a lot easier when we can really be together to figure out other projects that we would like to do together. So thank you for part one of the triple treat. And Polly?
That's a little bench. Jack just told me about it. He said if your head doesn't rise above the podium, you can stand on a little something. I feel a little emotional. I started with what Rowley had to say, and now I'm a mess because of what Anne has to say. And I hope I get through this okay. Jenny asked me to read something having to do with hope, and I was so glad because I had already had a poem about hope. During COVID, I was trying to find out what I could do to keep myself occupied, and I decided to sign up for a course to write poetry through Forcier. So this is one of the poems that I wrote, and it's called a palindrome or a mirror poem. So it's 14 short lines, and then when you get to the 14th line becomes a mirror in that it starts again with another column and it becomes the first line. And it gives a little bit of a different meaning, as you'll hear when I read it. Hope is my phoenix, flutters in my ribcage, sinks with my heartbeat, sees through my eyes. She speaks with my tongue, spirit, wise beyond my ken. She listens closely as I falter. She chooses me against all odds, comes to me again and again, this iridescent being. This iridescent being, again and again, comes to me. Against all odds, she chooses me. As I falter, she listens closely. Beyond my ken, spirit-wise, she speaks with my tongue, sees through my eyes. sinks with my heartbeat, flutters in my rib cage. Hope is my phoenix. And so my title here is What Keeps Me Going, Hopeful and Positive. 15 years ago, when Jack and I first joined the church, I remember hearing about people's individual spiritual practices, which were everyday rituals, and thinking, I didn't have one. In fact, I realized I do. I did and I do. I come out of the Christian faith, having been brought up in an Anglican boarding school for my formative years. I attended chapel twice a day and was steeped in biblical passages and the words of beautiful hymns. The teachings of Jesus are very present to me and inform me in my daily life. We are instructed to pray without ceasing. I feel as if I am ever ready to send a prayer of thanks or supplication. The best prayer of all is to thank God for taking care of whatever person or people or ideal I'm praying for, and I know that God will and that He is. This is my belief that whatever worries me, I can pray and turn it over to Jesus, and He will carry that burden for me. I know that my prayer has been heard and that God answers prayer. Years ago, I had an epiphany that the promises of the Bible are real. When I internalized this, my heart literally leapt with joy. I felt it turn right over in my chest. I believe that God is within, that this feeling is available to everybody. It is a simple message, of course, intended to be simply understood. One of the promises I have relied on is, fear not, for I am always with you. God is my ever-present help in need. The Spirit to me is living and accessible. We care deeply for people as they suffer and for our world, but what action can we take? Some people, like Bob Williamson and Anne Macksoud, devote their lives to a cause or causes. But most of us, what can we do? We can send money, we can carry placards, we can contact congressmen, join protesters, and also we can pray. I feel blessed to be in a relationship with a loving congregation in a loving community that accepts me for what I believe, as we of the UU faith accept each other's various paths. Richard.
Good morning. The times are truly troubled, and I can't say my response has always brought forth peace and joy and positive action. Unless staying in bed all day with the covers over my head counts. But here's a general picture of how I try to respond to difficult and troubled times. I, like Annie, following Joanna Macy's lead, start with trying to be in the present, or at least slowing down and being more aware of my surroundings, my feelings, my very being, and not having my thoughts dominated by struggles from the past or fears of the future. And by the way, crying helps a lot in terms of bringing you into the present. And I've been doing a lot of that lately. World problems often churn up my thoughts and feelings. I really can't get away from feeling down until I get less stressed out. Here's where alone time is essential, be it in the woods or in my living room. This gives me an opportunity to read our favorite Wendell Berry poem, The Peace of Wild Things. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free. But in case you don't have a wood rake nearby to lie down with, David Budville suggests we can do it right wherever we are. He writes, "The cat sits on the back of the sofa, looking out the window through the softly falling snow at the last bit of gray light. I'm sitting in the blue chair, listening to this stillness. The only sound, the occasional gurgle of tea coming out of the pot and into the cup. How can this be? Such calm, such peace, such solitude in this world of woe." When I'm in this more settled, less stressful place, I spend time thinking about all that is good in my life: family, friends, community, health, nature, art, music, and dance. The things that bring a smile to my face and happiness to my heart. All that I am grateful for. Here again, Joanna Macy is of help. She believes that being grateful allows us to take in and respond to the challenges we face, to hear the bad news without becoming hopeless. I used to do something called co-counseling. Maybe some of you have done that in the past. This is where ordinary people counsel one another. We always began by asking the other person, what's new and good in your life? Starting with these positive thoughts seemed to open the door to talking about and working on some of the old and not so good struggles the other was experiencing. Gratitude opens me up to hearing and facing up to the world's woes. Feeling grateful cheers me up. Looking to others for understanding, love, and support keeps me going. That's why I've spent so much time over the years in covenant groups, the Amazing Grace, several men's groups, and attending a variety of retreats. Now, groups may not offer such a refuge for everyone. My introvert friends may feel otherwise, but they offer me a chance to air my struggles as well as share my good times, to be heard in a loving and supportive setting. Many of you have done this for me over the years. Being part of a loving community is essential for responding positively in difficult times. Many don't have this loving community. We're very lucky we do have such a community. Of course, hope, as discussed so elegantly by Polly and Anne, plays a role in responding to difficult times. I'm thinking of one aspect of hope in particular, being clear about what I hope for, having a vision of something good that I believe is attainable. This vision keeps me focused on overcoming obstacles to getting to this better place. As Barbara Kingsolver puts it, the very least you can do in your life is figure out what you hope for. And the most you can do is to live inside that hope. Not admire it from a distance, but live right in it, under its roof. And Lainey Taylor says, hope can be a powerful force. Maybe there's no actual magic in it, but when you know what you hope for most and hold it like a light within you, you can make things happen, almost like magic. And finally, in line with the idea of active hope, I take action. Whether my action is small or large, usually small, I'm afraid, I try to link what I do to what I hope for. Action that in some fashion confronts the difficulties, the fears, the worries before me. Barack Obama writes, the best way to not feel hopeless is to get up and do something. Don't wait for good things to happen to you. If you go out and make some good things happen, you will fill the world with hope. You will fill yourself with hope. Lately, I'm afraid it's just been holding a climate emergency sign on the Lyman Bridge every Friday morning, along with Polly and Jack and other friends. Not much, but something. I so wish that we could all come together to do something a little bigger, and Annie has spoken to this. and mentioned the 4:30 social justice conversation that we can all join in if we choose to. And also there's a retreat with regard to the Ukraine invasion at 6:30 tonight at the East End Park, right, Joe? I'd like to end with this poem by Václav Havel. It's I who must begin. Once I begin, once I try, here and now, right where I am, not excusing myself by saying things would be easier elsewhere, without grand speeches and ostentatious gestures, but all the more persistently to live in harmony with the voice of being, as I understand it within myself. As soon as I begin that, I suddenly discover, to my surprise, that I'm neither the only one, nor the first, nor the most important one to have set out upon that road. Whether all is really lost or not depends entirely on whether or not I am lost. Thank you all very much.